Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Merrillville Town Council meeting for today, Tuesday, March 9th at 6:30 p.m. Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for a moment of silence following that.
Almighty God and Father, we come before you tonight in humility to say thank you for your blessings upon our community. Say thank you, Lord, for your graciousness, your mercy. And Father, we pray tonight for the men and women in this room who will be leading. We pray for wisdom and abundance and guidance from your Spirit, for decisions and discussions that will be made. Father, we look to you for guidance in all things. We say thank you for all of that. In Jesus' name.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Gene Ward, would you lead us in a pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk Treasurer, would you please call the roll?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Councilman Spann.
Present.
Councilman Hardaway.
Here.
Councilman Minchuk.
Here.
Councilwoman Uzelak.
Here.
Councilman Pettit.
Here.
Councilman White.
Here.
Councilman Bella.
Here.
All seven present.
Very good, thank you. Moving on to petitions, communications, acknowledgements, and remonstrations. We have a letter from the Town Engineering Administrator endorsing Core Construction's recommendation to approve payment for application number 17.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Pettit, second by Mrs. Uselak for approval. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Tonight we have two proclamations. The first one is for the country of Greece, I should say. It's similar to proclamations like last month where we did Black History Month. This one will be read by Madam Clerk Treasurer.
Town of Merrillville Proclamation, State of Indiana, recognizing the bicentennial independence of Greece and celebrating democracy in Greece and the United States. Whereas the people of ancient Greece developed the concept of democracy in which the supreme power to govern was vested in the people. And whereas the founding fathers of the United States, many of whom read Greek political philosophy in the original Greek language, drew heavily on the political experience and philosophy of ancient Greece in forming the representative democracy of the United States. Whereas the people of the United States generously offered humanitarian assistance to the people of Greece during their struggle for independence, and whereas Greece heroically resisted Axis forces at a crucial moment in the World War II, forcing Adolf Hitler to change his timeline and delaying the attack on Russia. And whereas Greece consistently allied with the United States of America in major international conflicts throughout its history as a modern state. And whereas the second United States-Greece strategic dialogue on October 7, 2019 underscored Greece's importance to the United States as a pillar of stability in the Eastern Mediterranean and Balkans as an important NATO ally. And whereas the government and people of Greece actively participate in peacekeeping and peace-building operations conducted by international organizations, including the United Nations, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, where Greece is a top contributor to defense expenditures, the European Union, and the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. And whereas the governments and people of Greece and the United States are at the forefront of efforts to advance freedom, democracy, peace, stability, and human rights. And whereas the Americans of Greek descent in the town of Merrillville and Lake County have made a positive impact in our communities by building housing for low-income elderly, building a vibrant parish that gives back to the community by hosting Thanksgiving dinners for the less fortunate, operate and donate to the Ross Township Food Pantry, deliver Meals on Wheels, collect hats and scarves for needy children during the holidays, donate and volunteer for the Salvation Army Angel Tree Program, and much more. And whereas those efforts and similar ideals have forged a close bond between the peoples of Greece and the United States, and whereas it is proper and desirable for the United States to celebrate March 25th, 2021, as the bicentennial of Greek Independence Day with the people of Greece, and to reaffirm the democratic principles from which those two great countries were founded. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Indiana, does hereby proclaim March 25th, 2021 as Greek Independence Day in the Town of Merrillville, and invite all citizens of our land to duly note this occasion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Hardaway. We'll recognize Mr. Span for a second. Before we vote, I would like to thank John Patelis for providing this information to us. John was our past clerk treasurer here in town, and as we all know, is Greek. Yes. Any other questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? The motion carries. The next proclamation is to recognize honoring Women's History Month. Madam Clerk Treasurer.
Town of Merrillville Proclamation, State of Indiana. The Town Council of Merrillville designating the month of March as Women's History Month. Whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. Whereas American women have played and continue to play a critical economic, cultural, and social role in every sphere of life of the nation by constituting a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside of the home. And whereas American women have played a unique role throughout the history of the nation by providing the majority of the volunteer labor force of the nation, and whereas American women were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our nation, and most importantly, in Merrillville. And whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background served as early leaders in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement, and whereas American women have served our country courageously in the military, whereas American women have been leaders not only in securing their rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and other movements, especially the peace movement, which create a more fair and just society for all. Whereas we are honored to have women serve in public office as at the national, state, local, and town of Merrillville level. And whereas despite these contributions, the role of American women in history has been consistently overlooked and undervalued in the literature, teaching, and study of American history. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Indiana, does hereby proclaim that March 9th through the end of March 2021 is designated as Women's History Month, and call upon the residents of Merrillville to observe, discuss, and educate others with appreciative programs, ceremonies, and other activities about the value and contributions that women have made to our nation, and more specifically, to the town of Merrillville.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. White, second by Mr. Pettit for approval. Nicely done, Kelly, on reading that.
Thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, the same sign. The motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda tonight, we have accounts payable register voucher approval for March 9th, 2021.
Before you move there, Mr. President, I would like to just congratulate the Crown Point girls basketball team for winning the Class 4A state championship
Basketball?
last Saturday. You know, even though it's not Merrillville, they're part of Merrillville. They're close enough to us that we can consider them Merrillville. And I think that we should acknowledge the fact that they did do it with 25-1 record this year.
Very good.
Thank you.
Moving on to the consent agenda, accounts payable voucher for March 9th, 2021, and the approval of the town council meeting minutes of February 23rd. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Uselak, second by Mr. Pettit for approval of the consent agenda. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Moving on tonight to standing and special committees, we have Budget and Finance. Mr. Hardaway.
Mr. President, thank you. We were supposed to have a Budget and Finance meeting next council meeting on the 23rd, but due to scheduling conflicts, Tricia won't be able to make it, so we rescheduled that to April the 13th at 6 p.m.
Okay,
That's my report.
thank you. Council Affairs, Mr. Pettit.
No report.
Public Works and the Utilities, Mr. Minchuk.
Nothing at this time.
Elections, Public Relations, and Town Beautification, Mr. Pettit.
No report.
Environmental Affairs, Mrs. Uselak.
Yes, I hear that the Johnson vaccination is going to be given in about 2 weeks, if it's not already out there. And that is the only one-shot vaccination, not two. So that will be coming out here in about 2 weeks.
Great, thank you.
That's what I heard.
Mr. President, question.
Thank you.
Mr. White.
Yes, Councilwoman Uselak, have you seen what the positivity rate for Merrillville or Lake counties?
I didn't hear you. I didn't understand you. What'd you say?
Have you any information on the positivity rate? The reason I'm saying that is because I've been monitoring, like most people have, and I've been looking at the deaths, and all those hospitalizations and deaths are also going down, so I didn't know if we had something
Well,
about.
as of Sunday, there were 2 more deaths in northwestern Indiana.
Okay.
As of confirmation on anything else, I can't tell you right offhand.
Okay, thank you.
But everybody so far that has heard of the vaccination, they have been getting it. That I do know of, there's been like maybe 50,000 in our area, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Moving on to Personnel Policy and Employee Benefits, Mr. Hardaway.
I don't have anything at this time, Mr. President. Mr. Riddle, do you have anything?
No, I do not.
Thank you. No report.
Public Safety, Mr. Minchuk.
Nothing new. We are looking forward to the North Police Station being fully operational very soon.
Good. Economic Development, Mr. Pettit.
Yes, we've got a lot of things, Mr. President. First and foremost, I would ask the audience to indulge us. We have a redevelopment commission meeting immediately following this, and I'd like to, when we adjourn, go right into the RDC. So if the audience could be patient with me, I'd appreciate it. Secondly, and probably more importantly, I'm very pleased to announce that the town has sold the field house building as of this morning to a developer that's going to renovate it. There will be a resolution later on, as well as a resolution at the redevelopment commission meeting to address an economic development agreement that Mr. Reardon, Mr. Svetanoff, and our bond counsel, who's in the audience, Tom Pittman and Bob Swentz, have hammered out, creating more jobs in Ameriplex at the crossroads. That being said, I believe that's all, Mr. President, until we get to the resolutions.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation, Mrs. Uselak.
Nothing on the parks since they've all been rehabbed in Maryville, as we all know. But maybe Miss Orlich has something on the new community center. I don't know if she's here.
She's here.
Oh, Jan, do you have anything to report on the community center? Nothing at this time? Okay, thank you. That's it, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Uselak. Abandoned and Blighted Properties, Mr. Hardaway.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't really have anything. I just encourage people, as I've been riding through the town, I see that there's a bunch of people working on properties, and we need to make sure that they have permits. And because I called a couple so far this week that didn't have permits, and I turned them into building and planning. And we just want to stay on top of that, because the one thing is, it's more revenue for the town, A, and B, we want to make sure that what they're doing to these properties, that it's going to meet the specific specs that we require. That's all I have.
Dean and Barbara White Community Center, co-chairs, Mr. Minchuk and Mr. Pettit.
Thank you, Jeff. As everyone knows, the The center is officially open. If you have not been there, I strongly encourage you to go through. Jan and her staff are working tirelessly in operating it. It's absolutely beautiful. There's still some small tweaking that needs to be done. We're in the process of building a concession stand and press box for the outdoor Weiss Family Field that will house a concession stand and upstairs a press box and restrooms. There's some signage that Mr. Bella has been working on diligently that needs to be wrapped up. We've already had people in the open gym. We've had people in the fitness center. We've had the Epic United Volleyball Club in there Tuesday and Wednesday night practicing. It is absolutely spectacular.
Don't we have
To
our-
that end, I would like to call a committee meeting for Thursday at 4 o'clock at the community center. And I would like as many council members to be there, even though it's Jeff and Leonard and I as the committee members. Jan and I really want to get feedback on what we've seen the first week in operations, what we need to start thinking about tweaking. Jan and I have already talked about some staffing issues that we want to talk about. So we'll go through all that on Thursday, Mr. President.
And don't we have our first event actually Saturday night?
Yes, we do, and I was remiss in my committee on elections, public relations, and town beautification, so thank you for pointing that out.
That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here, Mr. Pettit.
Thank you. As one of the board of directors for the Crossroads Regional Chamber of Commerce, we're going to be hosting a Cheers to 10 Years recognition night where we're going to be having dinner, cocktails, tours of the facility, and we're going to be handing out 10 different categories of awards that the chamber has designated. Sustainability Award, Minority Business Award, Entrepreneur Award, Legacy Award, Hero Award. There are 10 of these awards. Mr. Bella, as council president, we, the town, have sponsored the Legacy Award, which is, just as it sounds, the longest tenured business in the town of Merrillville, and Mr. Bella will be presenting that that evening, Saturday night. It's from 6 to 9 o'clock, and I think most of the council are going to be in attendance, if I'm not mistaken. Talk with Belinda. So that'll take place in the Mike Anderson Event Center
That's
with
Mike Anderson at
cocktails
Silver
in the
Lake.
Robinson Reception Atrium at the Dean and Barbara White Center. Did I cover it, Mr. President?
Yes, you did.
All right.
I think we need to buy you a jacket like the NASCAR drivers have with all the names on it, Sean.
I think I could do that in advertising with billboards.
Very good. Is that all?
That's all for.
Just real quick,
sure.
I know Mr. Pettit mentioned the concession stand that is being built. That is one of the last big items that we have left for sponsorship. Our sponsorship has been overwhelming at the center. I'm not much of a salesman like Sean is, but the place just speaks for itself. Once you take somebody in there, it's just amazing what they see, and you don't have to just be a salesman. It just speaks for itself. But that is the one last piece we have, is the concession stand. So if there's any businesses out there or anybody would be interested in sponsorship for that, that would be great.
Yep,
Thank you.
that's a $75,000 for 5 years. And I would be remiss, because Mr. Minchuk and Mr. Bella collaborated on this. We also are selling bricks on what amounts to the south wall by the Bozak Auto Group court, where Rick has designed a brick, and you can buy the bricks for $100 and have any name, family members, your business. I know Mr. Bella's bought one for his business. I've bought one for my family. Councilwoman Uzelak asked about it tonight. So you can buy bricks that will be adhered to that wall for $100. And if you haven't seen them, again, another reason to swing by the center. And I would encourage my fellow colleagues on the council to get your name on the wall. I think it'd be a real cool, Rick's done a real great design. Jeff came up with that one Saturday morning over coffee and donuts. So.
Does that conclude your report?
Yeah.
Thank you. Moving on to special projects, Mr. Hardaway.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, on February 25th, Mr. Reardon, Mr. Bella, and myself met with Drs. Brown and Lackey of the school corporation to discuss our study circle training, which will start next month. And I don't have the exact date, but it's going to be somewhere in the middle of April. There's going to be 2 sessions. The first group There'll be 8 people in each session, and the department heads, council people, and department heads will be notified exactly when that's going to take place. But I encourage everyone to make sure that their calendars are kept open for 5 weeks. It's going to be on a Tuesday from 4 to 5:30 p.m. each Tuesday for 5 weeks. So I'm looking for a great teachable moment in this endeavor, and I just think that when we come out of that, we'll be okay. Secondly, the 50th birthday celebration committee met last Thursday, and it was decided that we're going to do the birthday celebration in three groups. The first 17 years, second 17 years, and then the last 16 years. And we've got committees for those, and we're looking for anybody that has any input as to what anything that they'd like to see, anything that you want to go from December the 30th, 71 through, add up to 16 years there. And we will add that. We're looking at churches, businesses, school events, the things that happen that enhance the sports part of the school corporation, family and real estate. And we have a publicity committee that has already put out a press release, it's my understanding. And there will be something in the town newsletter that's coming out. So we are moving on this. We will meet again this Thursday at 2 p.m. Anybody that has anything that they would like to contribute, please let us know so that we don't want to exclude anyone. We want to include everyone. If you have anything, just get it to myself or get it to Linda in the town manager's office, and she'll get it to me so that we can make sure that all of the events that have happened in the town of Merrillville for the last 50 years, especially in the second quarter. We don't have an exact date yet, but we do know that it will happen at the museum as the first event. It's going to be something at the museum, and then the second one will be hopefully something outside also. And then the third one will be the big one that we will be able to address everything that happened leading up to this year.
Great.
So, thank you, Mr. President. I think that's all I have.
Mr. President, to Rich, please have your publicist get in contact with me because as everyone knows, Lamar dedicates a digital panel for community events. So on the availability of any of our signs, if you want any of that artwork to promote the events or just the history, have her give me a call and we can start coordinating that.
Thank you. I appreciate that because, yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of things and we need to get the word out and we need to make sure that all of the businesses in the area that promise that we can put stuff on their electronic boards,
Yep.
that we get stuff on the electronic board for this 50. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Moving on to department and commission reports, we have Lake County Solid Waste Management District, Mr. White.
Yes, Mr. President. I have received notification that all of the communities have completed their recycling grant reports. We'll be meeting on April the 1st, I believe, to April the 2nd, I believe, to approve of those reports. Of course, Merrillville would be part of that. We get a significant amount of money from those reports. So I'm thinking that Mr. Public Works guy there, he has our stuff together. So we'll be finding out real soon when the committee meets, the recycling grant committee meets on April 2nd. Nothing else to add.
Thank you. Northern Indiana Regional Planning Commission, Mr. Hardaway is our representative there.
Yeah, Mr. President, thank you. Our next NERC meeting will be next Thursday. So after that, next Thursday, then when we meet again on the 23rd, I should have a report.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have.
Is Matt Lake here tonight? Thank you. Department reports, town manager. Sheila, anything tonight? Jan? Kevin? Mr. Reardon?
Nothing at this time. I'll comment during the redevelopment commission meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on tonight to general orders. On the agenda, we have a first reading ordinance, ordinance 21-05, the ordinance repealing the town ordinances. It refers to setting fees for the John A. Prusen Community Center. Madam Clerk Treasurer. Anything to add?
Ordinance number 2105. Whereas the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Lake County, Indiana, did on the 12th day of June 1984 at a public meeting of the Town Council pass, approve, and adopt Town Ordinance number 8414. And whereas the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Lake County, Indiana, did on the 31st day of March 1992 at a public meeting of the Town Council pass, approve, and adopt the Town Ordinance number 9208. And whereas the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Lake County, Indiana, did on the 9th day of February 2015, at a public meeting of the Town Council, pass, approve, and adopt Town Ordinance number 1602. And whereas the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Lake County, Indiana, did on the 22nd day of March 2016 at a public meeting of the Town Council, pass, approve, and adopt Town Ordinance number 1608. And whereas the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Lake County, Indiana, has reviewed the Town Code and the provisions and requirements of Town Ordinances numbers 84-14, 92-08, 16-02, and 16-08 pertaining to the regulating the use and setting of fees for the John A. Prusen Community Center. And whereas the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Lake County, Indiana, has reviewed these ordinances and has determined that the John A. Prusen Community Center will discontinue operations with the establishment and the opening of the Dean and Barbara White Community Center. And whereas the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Lake County, Indiana, having reviewed the appropriateness of its legislative actions in passing, approving, and adopting Town Ordinance numbers 84-14, 92-08, 16-02, and 16-08, now deems it appropriate and advisable to repeal said Town Ordinances 84-14, 92-08, 16-02, and 16-08. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Lake County, Indiana, Section 1, the Town Ordinance number 84-14 duly passed and adopted by the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Lake County, Indiana, on the 12th day of June, 1984, is hereby repealed in its entirety upon passage and adoption of this ordinance. Section 2, that Town Ordinance, number 9208, duly passed and adopted by the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Lake County, Indiana, on the 31st day of March 1992, is hereby repealed in its entirety upon passage and adoption of this ordinance. Section 3, that the Town Ordinance number 16-02, duly passed and adopted by the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Lake County, Indiana, on the 9th day of February 2016, is hereby repealed in its entirety upon passage and adoption of this ordinance. Section 4, that the Town Ordinance number 16-08 duly passed and adopted by the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Lake County, Indiana, on the 22nd day of March 2016, is hereby repealed in its entirety upon passage and adoption of this ordinance. Section 5, that all existing Town Code sections and ordinances or parts thereof in conflict with the provisions of this ordinance are hereby deemed null, void, and of no legal effect, and are specifically repealed. Section 6, if any section, clause, provision, or portion of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction, such decision shall not affect any other section, clause, provision, or portion of this ordinance. Section 7, that this ordinance shall take effect and be in full force and effect from and after its passage by the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Lake County, Indiana, and publication in conformance with applicable law.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, second by Mrs. Uselak for approval of ordinance 21-05. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call, please.
Mr. Span? Yes. Mr. Hardaway?
Yes.
Mr. Benchuk?
Yes.
Mrs. Uselak?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White,
Yes.
and Mr. Bello.
Yes.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, motion carries. Moving on tonight to resolutions, we have Resolution 21-12. And what I'd like to do is, this is a companion resolution that ties in with the Redevelopment Commission. I'd like to call on Mr. Pettit for a little history on this and why we're doing it.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville approving the issuance of refunding bonds by the Town of Merrillville Redevelopment Commission and addressing other matters related thereto. What this resolution will do is we'll refinance and refund the bond that is associated with the Mississippi Street TIF District. In the audience, we have Tom Pittman, our bond counsel from Barnes and Thornburg, as well as Robert Swentz from London Whitty Associates, our financial advisor. I don't know, gentlemen, is there any other explanation? This is it's actually refinancing. It's going to be a better deal on the Mississippi Street bonds and pay them off earlier, correct, Bob, at a better interest rate?
Won't pay them off earlier, it won't extend the term, but it will reduce the payments by about $150,000.
Okay.
Thank you, Sean.
Motion to approve, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, second by Mrs. Uszak for approval of Resolution 21-12 as presented. Any other questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to Resolution 21-14 tonight. Again, this is a companion resolution with regard to the Redevelopment Commission. Mr. Pettit.
Thank you, Mr. President. Resolution 21-14 is a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Merrillville, Indiana, approving a form of economic development agreement among the Town of Merrillville, the Town of Merrillville Redevelopment Commission, and Fortified Packaging LLC and Dottie Properties LLC. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Town Council's version of a resolution that the RDC will pass at the meeting immediately following this. This is in conjunction with the sale of the Fieldhouse building by the Merrillville Redevelopment Commission to Fortified Packaging LLC and Dottie Properties LLC. And this economic development agreement outlines incentives that the town has offered as a part of the sale of that property to those two LLCs.
Thank you, Mr. Pettit. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Uszak, second by Mr. Hardaway for approval of Resolution 21-14 as presented. Any other questions or comments tonight? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. The motion carries. And our last resolution tonight is Resolution 21-15, the resolution of the Town of Merrillville approving certain matters in connection with the amendments to the declaratory resolutions and economic development plans for each of the Merrillville Road economic development areas, the Century Plaza, Broadway Economic Development Area, the Mississippi Street Economic Development Area, and the Interstate 65, State Road 30 Economic Development Area. Mr. Pettit, anything to add?
Mr. President, this is the third resolution. Previous resolutions have been passed by the Redevelopment Commission, the Plan Commission. This is the third step. Again, at the Redevelopment Commission here in a few minutes will be the fourth resolution. This is the mechanism that we have accepted to try and allocate funds out of our TIF draw every year to a project that will be built on the 3 acres at the Dean and Barbara White Community Center in conjunction with Epic United Volleyball and the Boys and Girls Club of Northwest Indiana.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Uszak, seconded by Mr. Hardaway for approval as presented. Is there any other questions or comments on the resolution? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Moving on tonight to Board of Zoning Appeal Actions, I'll turn it over to Sheila Shine, our Public Works Director. Public Works? I'm sorry. our
Mr.
Planning
Ayala, would you
Director.
come
Thank you.
forward? Our first BZA action on this evening, special exception approval Z31E 161120. Petitioner is Enrico Magma to allow owner Enrico Magma, and the purpose is to allow chickens located at 9520 County Line Road in the R1 Residential Zoning District. Petitioner is requesting special exception approval from Section 21-10A to allow the housing of chickens at 9520 County Line Road in an R1 Residential Zoning District. Section 21-10A states that accessory uses shall be compatible with the principal use and shall not include the keeping of culture, pigeons, poultry, or livestock, whether or not for profit, except in an A1 district. Petitioner submits that chickens are defined as domestic fowl. Chickens are not predators and will not endanger the public. Chickens are located in the barn. The barn is cleaned every day, and the petitioner purchased the property in 2017 with no knowledge that there was a violation of the town zoning ordinance. A large part of why the petitioner purchased the property was to have chickens and farm animals. The chickens will remain on a private property, and the petitioner has no impact on the neighbors. Petitioner was deferred on November 18th due to COVID and a request of a personal meeting for this petitioner only, at this location only, for this use only. This petitioner was denied with a 5-1 to 5 denial.
I oppose that. We have an ordinance right here in the town of Merrillville. Our present ordinance says no chickens of any kind, no raising of chickens. I've had a couple calls from people in that area, and they are opposing the chickens being raised there. My opinion and my vote will be no.
Mr. President, this is in my ward. I was at the BZA. I too, as Councilwoman Uzelak has gotten calls I've had and talked to people that were there at the meeting and looking at the details and the aerials. This isn't a situation, and as I told the BZA, the Panhandle is somewhat of a different animal. A lot of large tracts of land, a lot of agricultural, some agricultural zoning. However, this is not agricultural zoning. You know, it's one thing to have 2 chickens and quote unquote kind of keep it to yourself for your own private use. When you've got 20 or 25 chickens out there, that's a problem. So at this time, as the councilman, I'm going to make a motion to uphold the BZA's denial of this petition.
What are you saying? You are upholding?
I'm upholding the BZA, which denied the petition.
You're saying that you're in favor of it?
I'm in favor,
You are in
deny.
I'm in
favor?
favor of the BZA's
Oh,
decision.
okay, I will second that motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Pettit, second by Mrs. Uselak, to basically approve the BZA actions and deny this petition. Did you want to say anything? We have a motion on the floor now.
Well, pretty much chickens are gone. I got rid of them. But what I wanted to say is, few neighbors out there, they have them. I don't know what's the difference between me and them. That's all I can say. You know, I got rid of them already, but, I mean, if you go in 93rd, which is 3 neighbors down from me, they have them too. So I don't know what's the difference, you know?
We'll certainly look into that for sure. Yeah.
For
Then
sure, you know,
report
because
their names with their addresses so we could send a code enforcer out there to check it.
I don't wanna get into the neighbors' problems. I'm more concerned into mine. So really, it mattered to me. He can have whatever he wants. It's his property, you know?
No, he
And
can't.
doesn't
Cannot.
really, the other guys made it look, it's like I have a mess. And all I'm trying to do in this place is fix it. You know, and yeah, I had chickens, I got rid of them, so it's no problem no more. I hope it's no
Good.
problem.
Well, I will reiterate.
I don't know
what
if
just
you
said. We have
remember
an
last time when we
ordinance on
came,
no
it
chickens.
went not just so much about the chickens, it was different things. It was not exactly about the chickens. Everything else went to the different direction. So I got rid of the chickens, I hope everything stops right there.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk Treasurer?
Mr. Span? Mr. Hardaway? Mr. Minchett?
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak?
Yes,
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor of upholding the BCA action.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving
Will
on
the-
tonight to the second petitioner.
DG Properties, can you come forward, please? Variance of use approval, Z7UV2 0221. Petitioner, DG Properties LLC. Owner, DG Properties LLC. Purpose to indoor climate control storage and outdoor storage, 7189, 7245 Taft Street, in a C2 Community Commercial Zoning District. Petitioner is requesting a variance of use approval to allow an indoor climate-controlled and outdoor storage facility at 7189, 7245 Taft Street on 14.9 acres in the C2 Community Commercial Zoning District. The petitioner is requesting indoor storage controlled storage facility that will comprise 69,000 square feet of interior retail space with 890 square feet of office space. The additional 30,000 square feet is currently leased as retail units with stores. The indoor storage will have 3 keypads for both entries, exits for the facility. The site will have 16 24-hour interior and exterior cameras. A remote sensor activating monitoring system will track outside activity 24 hours, 7 days a week. Public hours will be 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. 2 full-time employees will be on site between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. An investment of $1.5 million will be invested in Phase 1, which includes an upgrade and build-out of the indoor storage. An investment of $1 million will be spent to build out the additional 67,200 square foot of outdoor storage facility. This petition was approved by the BZA 5-0.
Mr. President,
Mr. Minchuk.
I received a lot of phone calls on this one, from people throughout Ward 3. It's kind of split. I've got a lot of people that are for a business going there, and I got a lot of people who are against, because for years we've been used to a grocery store there, and now we don't have that access anymore. I know for the last 3 years, myself along with other council members have tried to get some kind of a draw store, some kind of an anchor store there, and we've been able to do so. At this time, I will say I am in favor of this because I do not want to see an eyesore in the middle of our town just go to waste, a giant building like that, overgrown weeds, dilapidated building falling apart. We don't need that in our town. I will reiterate through meetings we've had prior, our town prides itself in beautification. So I have looked through the pamphlet, I have seen pictures, I have seen preliminary designs that you have provided. But I very, very, very much wanted to see and reiterate that facade being redone, make it look very nice and presentable. The fence that surrounds the property redone, it's kind of falling apart a little bit, and I want to see it well lit at nighttime. So I know these stores that are also in the complex, they need some kind of anchor there, they need some kind of a draw. So at least let's give them that, let's give our town something. So that's where I'm at this time. I will make a motion to approve.
I will agree and second your motion. Since my ward is touching your ward, I've had numerous calls for economical reasons for Merrillville. I agree they should come in, and I second your motion, Jeff. Thank you.
Motion by Mr. Minchuk, second by Mrs. Uselak for approval. We went out of order here, didn't we? Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, thank you. Greg Bauer here on behalf of Merrillville Self-Storage, right down the road from this location. With me tonight, who drove 2 hours to get here, is my client, We filed a written remonstrance with respect to this. And I know the town in this petitioner is trying to balance things in terms of development, but I had a client who faced the same thing at the Jewel, Osco, and Dyer. It takes time to infill for retail. It takes time to fit tenants into that, to cut up the space and everything. And with more time, you can take a prime retail corner like this is and redevelop it, and make the spaces retail, make them 10,000 and make them go back long. But that's what's needed in this situation. That's what happened to Jewel Osco, and it's almost 100% filled in by now. And we watched that take place over 5 years. What we pointed out to the BZA is that the conditions regarding a variance are not satisfied here. A variance is a standard up here. There has to be some peculiar condition that leads to this. There has to be an unnecessary hardship from the strict application. Here, the petitioners bought a retail community center, distressed, when Strachan-Ventil is gone. And what they have to do is redevelop that distressed retail center, put retail businesses in there to support the neighborhoods around that, to support the people who are living there with grocery stores, other ability to purchase retail. Because if that retail goes away, ultimately, we believe, in good development in towns, people will move away from that area. You're going to take a prime retail corner, and not only are you taking the inside space here and putting storage in there, you're also approving a phase 2 to put the same type of buildings that my client has just down the road, right outside here. So the look is going to significantly change there, and over time, retail will be lost at that corner. What we tried to explain in our remonstrance is that this town is oversupplied in storage units right now. There's 9 square feet per person right now, and the market's saturated at 7 square feet. What we think you should do is take a look at the supply in the market right now. You just approved one south of Route 30 that bumped up the space above 400,000 square feet. If you took the time to take a look at the market studies and figure this thing out and take the time to figure out how long it's going to take to put retail into that building, I think the town would make a good decision after it took all these factors into consideration. So with that, if Jim Sayag could briefly address you.
Yeah, and the word there is briefly. We allow 3 minutes for remonstration, so.
Honorable council members, we protest this application for 2 reasons. And when I say we, that's collectively myself, Han Capital, and Steve Schwartz, who have joined me in writing to vehemently propose the granting of this conditional use sought by the petitioner. I'm Mr. Span's constituent. My colleagues, Mr. Han, over at Han and Mr. Schwartz, are some of your constituents. We expect you to defend our interests as well. The fact is, no one remonstrated, not myself, not Han Capital, when Mr. Schwartz recently came in for his 70,000 square foot entitlement. So this isn't sour grapes and this isn't fighting competition. We've all looked at the market now, and following that 70,000 square feet, we look at another 100,000 come in, and we protest this application for 2 reasons. Number 1, because the market can't handle it. Number 2, because the technical standards are higher here, and the applicant must prove affirmatively that any approval will not be injurious to us. The burden of proof is on the applicant. We are here saying this will injure us. He needs to prove this will not with a study. There's no study provided. The answer to this standard provided is flimsy developer speak. I've provided that answer as a developer, and it's developer nonsense. The applicant must prove that the market can handle the additional square footage, or his application should be tabled or denied. The answer to every vacancy in Merrillville cannot be self-storage. I own a retail mall. I have kept a banquet center in debt to me for $200,000 until COVID passes, okay? I'm in the same boat, and I've chosen a different solution. If otherwise, what's going to happen is we're all going to fail, including the applicant. Lastly, I have a deal with you. I had bought a disaster in this town, and I turned it around. I appeared before several of you here. The city owes me better than to turn around and undercut my efforts right when we're about to turn the corner. We just clear-cut the next several acres in preparation of adding another 46,700 square feet by right that you all gave us, to the chagrin of my neighbors on Whitcomb. That's just going to sit there like that if you approve this application. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Will the lawyer for the new projects come forward and state his arguments here?
Thank you, Marge.
Thank you.
You know,
I'm
Right.
sorry. I was just thinking ahead of
Thought you had a
time.
plan commission meeting or what?
Yeah, like a
Okay.
plan commission.
Thank you, Mrs. Usley. You know, I guess I would respond and start with, I find it peculiar that the only remonstrator that appears here today is a storage unit owner. No remonstrators come from the adjacent properties, adjacent businesses, anyone within the vicinity of where this development is. But yet, we are asked here, and you're asked as a council to believe that the remonstration is not self-serving, that is strictly based upon the fact that they believe the science doesn't warrant, the numbers don't warrant another storage unit in DG Properties development. And I find that hard to believe. I think that's a flimsy argument without much basis. When it comes down to it, we're looking at a piece of property that's been vacant for over 3 years. And I believe when we presented to the BZA, we made it clear, we certainly invited a grocery store. My client would be the first to bring a grocery store into that property. That's not a viable option. And if we want to talk about saturation, let's talk about the number of grocery stores and those types of retail businesses that are within easily a 4 to 5 square foot area. So again, the argument that this is injurious to the public safety, to the welfare, to the adjacent businesses, just to me, makes no sense, not from a legal basis. The only one who's arguing that this is injurious is the individual remonstrator who owns storage facilities. And I guess, to me, it's analogous to, and what I argued before the BZA was the same thing. Do we have McDonald's go in across the street from Burger King's? Do we have CVS across the street from Walgreens? Or do we tell them, look, we're saturated, too much competition, we don't want you here? That argument doesn't make sense. And again, there's no legal basis that's been presented that we have not met the bar when it comes to proving that we're not going to injure anybody. We're not going to hurt any of the adjacent businesses. This is an improvement. It's an improvement to that corner, and my client's taking a substantial risk. We're not talking about coming in and slapping some paint and doing some minimal improvement. He's spending $2.5 million to invest into this community, into that corner, into that location, which helps everybody. And I guess I would have to be made to believe that the remonstrators want us to condone a theory that competition isn't good. Competition is good for all the citizens of America. The more businesses that provide opportunities, places, in this case storage, it's nothing but competition. So if we're going to take the position that this should be denied because we have too many storage facilities, I just don't believe that. I don't think there's a clear legal basis for that. And I think my client wants to do nothing but invest in Merrillville to help the citizens of Merrillville, to make that corner more viable, and to make it more productive in the long run. And again, I know I said at the beginning, I don't hear anybody else here remonstrating today or ever filed a petition before the BZA, except for a competitor. That's not a coincidence. Thank you, council members. I appreciate the time.
One question, will that parking lot have
What's
upscale
that
lighting since it's on such prime property and sitting on a corner?
It will have additional lighting, Councilwoman Uslak. However, when my client purchased that building, he put in significant additional lighting at the time, both in the parking lot and along the retail spaces. But that will also be improved.
Okay, that's what we need. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. White,
I'd like to motion that we table.
motion to table by Mr. White. Is there a second? Is there a second to the motion to table?
Second.
Motion from Mr. White, second from Mr. Span to table.
Mr. President, how long is the table for?
30 days?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious, I mean, so they know. when-
Yeah, that's fair. 30 days would be fair.
Mr. Span, is your second stand?
Yes, it does. We have a storage facility in my ward already.
Is that in your ward, Mr. Span?
It is, yeah.
Right across Whitcomb Street, correct? Okay.
I would turn to Mr. Svetnoff, though, because I've been in this situation in other communities, and both to the attorney there and to Mr. Bauer, if I'm not mistaken, Joe, financial gains cannot be part of a hardship. So to declare competition on one side or the other, that we should deny or approve this, we shouldn't take that into consideration, should we?
That's really not a consideration.
It's, I mean, and I can say, guys, to Greg and to you, sir, in the 18 years I've been on this council, I've never heard somebody come up with an argument of denying something because of competition. I have to tend to agree with the petitioner. Competition is good. I mean, if we did that, as he alluded to, there's a lot of development in town that would not take place because of competition.
Right.
And you just cannot do that. I don't know, just some thoughts.
I actually don't see this as a competition situation. What I'm looking at is it being an economic development situation. If he puts that there, what are going to be the spin-off businesses next to a storage facility?
I think, didn't you say at the BZA, gentlemen, that the leases to the south of the old grocery store are all in line?
Yes, they are.
And we talked about
I just need to see that.
there, you were going to lease those spaces out where the old Subway was.
Yeah, I need to see that information because I don't have that information. So I can't make a informed decision without having everything in front of me here, and I don't see it. So I would still let my motion stand to table it for 30 days.
I second that.
We got that down. Thank you, gentlemen. I will say, though, do we want a grocery store? Do we want to see a grocery store there again? Absolutely. That would be wonderful. But I've talked to grocery store owners. I've talked to large companies and small companies. They just don't have an interest in that. The marketplace has changed. Amazon has changed retail a lot. And these are successful grocery store owners. And Strachan Van Til was one of the leaders in the county with over 22 stores. If they couldn't make a go of it there, I don't know if any other company could ever come in.
Absolutely, Mr. President.
We'd love to see that, but it's just not viable in the marketplace.
Yeah, I haven't talked to any, maybe they talked to you, but I do know Strachan Van Til did have a store on 93rd and Taft Street. That was closed too.
That's right.
So-
Because the marketplace has changed. There's no market for it.
Right. I don't know the markets, but maybe you get a little bit more information from these individuals. So I have to have information to make a decision. If you're not going to share the information until just now, then how could I wouldn't have made that motion.
It was in your packet.
No, it was a
Leonard.
pretty.
Yeah, that's not,
Councilman,
Packet,
that's not something I hid
Here's a
from you.
pretty elaborate presentation
Here.
put on
Did you make a
by
motion, Joe?
the petitioners.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think for economical reasons, we need something in there. We've waited for 3 years already, and there are no grocery stores or supermarkets coming to us and wanting to move in there.
And we kind of lucked out several
Yes.
years ago before Leonard got on the council, and I believe that corner between Rich and Leonard, Eagle went out of business.
Yeah.
How long did Eagle sit vacant before the church came in and acquired the property? And they've been in there now for several years, but
Yeah.
that size of building for grocery, and we've talked about this. I mean, Rich and Leonard and Jeff and Margie and I on the redevelopment commission. This
Right.
is, it's in Jeff's ward, but it impacts the entire town. It's a redevelopment commission,
I will have
project.
to say this. It was a very tough decision, to approve this, I'll have to admit. I do agree. We want retail in the middle of our town, because this affects all wards. It's smack dab in the middle of town. We've tried for 3 years. We've talked to other grocers. We've talked to other guys that want to do other storage companies there that I says, hey, well, how about we do retail in the front and you can do your storage out of the back? Nobody wanted to do anything. This is the only thing we've had in the last 3 years without this place going vacant. It was hard for me to make this decision, but I think it's time to move forward. That's just my opinion at this time.
I have to agree with you, Jeff. People in my ward have been calling for the last 3 years on and off. What are we
Mr. President,
going
can I
to
call
do
for a
with that
vote?
empty building? It's been sitting there empty. For
There's a lot of empty
economical
buildings in Merrillville.
reasons, I feel we should have something in there ASAP.
Thank you,
3
Margie. I
years
have a call
later.
for the vote. Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call, please. This is the motion to table for 30 days.
On the
Yes
motion
or
to
no?
Table 30 days, Mr. Span. Mr. Hardaway.
Yeah. No.
Mr. Minchuk.
No.
Mrs. Uzelak.
No.
Mr. Pettit.
No.
Mr. White.
Yes.
5 in favor. I'm sorry, 2 in favor of tabling it and 5 opposed. I'm sorry, Mr. Bella.
I was going to say,
forgot
how'd you come
about
up with
you.
7 on that?
I forgot about you, I'm sorry.
I'll vote no.
No?
Now it's 5-2.
Now it's 5.
Motion fails to table. Moving on, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second, 30 was.
Oh, I'm sorry, and the same 2.
Yeah,
Thank you.
there was.
All right. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none, Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call, please.
Mr. Span.
Okay.
Mr. Hardaway.
Yeah.
Mr. Minchuk.
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak.
Yes.
Mr. Pettit.
Yes.
Mr. White.
No.
And Mr. Bella.
Yes.
5 in favor. 4 opposed.
5-2, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for investing in our town.
Thank you.
Mr. President, before we move to old business,
We have another BZA item.
oh, I'm sorry, I missed that other BZA. I'll wait till after the BZA.
Special exception approval Z8E30221, petitioner Town of Merrillville, owner Town of Merrillville, to allow a gymnasium, multi-purpose athletic facility at 6680 Broadway in the C3 Highway Commercial Zoning District. Petitioner is requesting special exception approval from Section 21-136 to allow the construction of a 60,000 square foot gymnasium, multi-purpose athletic building. The proposed development is located at 6680 Broadway in the C3 Highway Commercial Zoning District. It is a part of the overall plan for the town of Merrillville, multi-purpose recreational campus at 6600, 6680 Broadway. The property is next to the Dean and Barbara White Community Center. The new building will be the home of the Epic United Volleyball Club and Boys and Girls Club of Northwest Indiana. All utilities have been extended to the lot lines as part of the construction of the Dean and Barbara White Community Center. There are 2 entrances on Broadway for this lot, as well as the Dean and Barbara White Community Center. Additionally, there's 541 parking spaces in 3 parking lots that will be accessible to Epic via cross-parking access agreement. Epic will house the Boys and Girls Club in the desperate need of a permanent home for its 150 children that are enrolled in their after-school program. This petition was approved 5-0.
President, make a motion to approve Z8E3-0221.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pettit, seconded by Mr. White, and Mr. Minchuk, and Mr. Hardaway. Thank you. Any further discussion on this action? Hearing none. Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call.
Mr. Span. Mr. Hardaway.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Minchuk.
Yes.
Mrs. Uzelak.
Yes.
Mr. Pettit,
Yes.
Mr. White,
Yes.
and Mr. Bella.
Yes.
6 yeses and 1 abstention.
6 and 1 abstention, motion carries. Mr. White, did you have something under old business?
I did, actually.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, and I don't know if this old business, I can probably call it right now business. What I'm sitting here observing, sitting right here, is that this place is filled with our employees. And
I'm sorry, what?
This place is filled, here is filled mostly with our employees, our department heads, and our consultants. I'm getting texts saying people that saying they can't get in this building. I was just wondering if we don't have anything else for the department heads, could they make room for the public that's outside that want to come in? They say they can't get in. I'm just trying to figure.
Well, we can't do that because of CDC guidelines of 6 feet separation between.
Yeah, but I've seen a lot closer, okay? And I know you're saying CDC, but
Well, I'm sorry,
I'm
we
closer than
just-
6 feet to Sean, right here. So you do what you want to do with that, but I'm not happy about that because people
Well, I'm not
deserve a
happy
right.
about COVID-19 either,
Yeah, but I'm
Leonard, but
telling
we
you,
have it here.
people
you know?
deserve a right to come in here and look at this place, because this is a public facility. And they can't get in here because you don't want them in here.
That has nothing to do with that, sir.
And I'm telling you, I've seen 3 sets of chairs here, and we got our police commissioners and all kind of other people in here, and those people are standing outside of it are the public.
It's a first come, first served. for
No,
the
it's not
speech,
first
Mr.
come,
White.
first serve.
Yes,
I
it
can
is.
tell a
That's how it
stacked
works.
deck when I see it. Nothing else to say on that order.
Well, thank you for that.
Are you following the governor's rule, which I
Well,
think
yeah,
you
we're
I'm not
are?
saying that,
Trying
March,
to.
about the
Yes.
governor's rules.
Well,
trying
I
to.
Because if it
think
was the
you are
governor's
at this
rules,
point.
we'd be doing a lot of things a lot different. So I don't want to hear that part of it.
Is there any other old business before us? Any new business before us?
Mr.
Mitchell?
President, at this time, I'd like to request a point of personal privilege, please.
Floor is yours, sir.
I think everybody in this room knows over the last 2 weeks, kind of what I've been going through. And I want to make sure I get all this out. Pictures from my past when I was younger have resurfaced again. And it's this time on a way bigger level than it has before. I've been through every media outlet I can possibly think of, and probably more than what I know. I just want to make it really clear that I do not blame anyone or anything for what I have done. There are no excuses for what I have done, what I have done back then, and I'm deeply, deeply sorry for what I have done. Over these last 2 weeks, I've had several calls of people supporting me, offering me help and guidance. There's also been people that I've hurt, people that I've angered, and I understand that. Not fully, but I understand that I've done so. I don't know what to say to everybody other than I'm sorry. I've said it in the past, I'll say it now, and I'll probably continue to say it for the rest of my life. It's something I've done. It's something I regret. It's something I was blind to when I was younger. Now that I see further even more how many people I've hurt, how many more people I've saddened, I've kind of stepped back and looked at things. A lot of the people that have reached out to me with help and guidance have offered to sit down with me and help educate myself on what I was so blind to back then. And I've accepted to do so. Not for any of you, not to please anybody, but for myself. I need to educate myself, what I was blind to, and I need to move forward. So to everybody, to my supporters, even to the people who are angry with me, And even to the people that I hurt and saddened, I am sorry to all of you. I know there's some people that no matter what I say, no matter how many times I apologize, they just will not accept my apology or who I am. And I understand that. To all of you who do know me or have worked by my side, I am still the same person I've always been, and I will still continue to work for this town. It is the only way I know that can make things better for the people of this town. So I will continue to do that. And that also was a tough decision. I don't know how many more times I can say it, but I will continue to say it. What I did was wrong. I blame no one. There are no excuses. I was wrong. And I'm sorry, and I will say it again for the rest of my life, and it's something I have to live with. I just want to say everything, and hopefully I have it all. Like I said, I will continue to work with this town alongside this council. This council here before you, over the last 5 years that I've been here, have done great things for this town, have done things this town has never seen in its 50 years. And I'm sorry to all the people of this town, and I'm sorry to this council that something like my history can put a little bit of shame on the progress that we've made. But we will continue to do so. We will continue to do things for this town to make it a better place to be. And I want to be part of that. Once again, I am sorry. I blame no one. I was wrong. At that, Mr. President, at this time, I would like to relinquish to you my vice president's position. I will not represent this town as a vice president with the shame that I brought to it, but I will continue to march on with what I have been doing in the past.
I'll accept your resignation as VP.
Thank you to everybody who supported me, and even to the people who are not supporting me. I understand that, but I will still be here working for you. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. White.
Jeff, I appreciate you saying that. I really do. This time I've seen a little different come from you. At the end of the day, Scripture tells me I got to forgive you. At the end of the day. And that's what I plan on doing. However, I still think that you were a young guy at that time. And I just hope that you can teach some of the older people here not to get into the same crap, but just differently. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Mr. White. Moving on to open to the public. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and limit your comments to 2 minutes, please. If you have a public comment, please come up to the podium and use the microphone so we can hear you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Shonda Flowers. I am a resident of the town of Merrillville, but I'm also an employee of the town. With all due respect, Councilman Minchuk, I can appreciate the apology today, but as an employee of the town, you also have to navigate because it is the council that makes decisions for its employees. I wish we could have had some type of meeting with the employees of the town personally before we had to be subjected to waiting publicly for this matter to be addressed. As a minority who works for the town, I too have been bombarded with a bunch of text messages with regards to the lack of confidence in the leadership by not addressing it. I understand with Dr. Lackey, who is a friend of mine, who I have participated in the study circles. I look forward to those study circles for the employees. My question is, I understand that there will only be 8 spots and there are lengthy training sessions. At what point will it dwindle down to all of the employees? How long of time span do you expect for this diverse training to take place, when I really hope that there was some conversations that could have taken place sooner than us waiting for a date in April? Do we have anything else expected or planned for at least the employees? Because although you do have a lot of people that are supporting you, it is the ones who don't understand, and being in these shoes and being this color, who have been impacted by that, have been hurt the most, are the ones that should have been addressed to first, on top of the people who are going to support you. So is there anything else on the books that this can be addressed? Because the office I work in is majority minority, and no one said or helped us to navigate how we are supposed to feel in a situation like this.
We will be happy to get back to you. This first study sessions are for department heads and for the town council, with the idea that we need to have ourselves going through the study circles first. But all 150, 160 or so employees that we have now will also be participating, and it's going to be as soon as possible. We start in mid-April, and it's a 5-week program. We need to get through that first ourselves, and then immediately following that, we'll start sessions for the employees.
Is that inclusive when you say department heads? Does that include the court's office? Are we considered department heads?
Mr. Velasco is scheduled on a study circle. He is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Members of the council, my name is Kurt Hildebrand. I'm a longtime resident of Merrillville's Ward 2 at 1080 East 58th Place. I was on business in New Jersey when I found out about the pictures of Mr. Minchuk. And it was so offensive to me that I chose to drive 11 hours to be here tonight. It's about one of your own. It's about a Lake County Sheriff's Department officer and a Merrillville council member. Tonight, it's weeks after the pictures came out, and he's finally attempted a mea culpa. It was long overdue. I don't know what's in his heart. No one really does. And I'm pretty sure he's actually sorry for what he did. And each person in his own circle, in his family, and his friends, are going to have to make a decision, and it's not up to me to decide or anyone else to judge. It's up to them, and it's up to his God. But what we have is a problem here. It's a problem here in the council. And this council is consisting of citizens who are elected and then paid to represent the citizens. These pictures not only represent blackface, which is just beyond reprehension. There's a picture of a Klansman. There's a picture of a police officer handcuffing the person in blackface. It's really the holy trinity of terror to many, many citizens of all races. He says he was young. He was in his 30s and a sworn law officer. That's not young. That's an adult. He certainly should have known damn well that what he was doing was totally inappropriate and morally wrong. Not only does he have the power to incarcerate people, he has the potential to use deadly force on them. His town connections got him appointed by caucus to his seat on the council originally. And at that time, until now, he kept those pictures hidden. And in addition to that, he avoided directly apologizing to many elected officials who are people of color. His personal, and I say more importantly, his professional judgment has shown itself to be horrible, all the way from at least 2003 until today. It's obviously not a one-time youthful mistake or a slip in judgment. It is about a man who does not have the good judgment to be in a position of power. I implore the members of this council, each of you, to go on record tonight and publicly censure Mr. Minchuk. Go on record and say it was wrong. Censure him. Remove him from his committee seats. You have the power to do that. I can't say that the people are watching. Either you do what is right, or we will do what is right come election time.
Thank you.
Good evening, elected officials and all who are in attendance. My name is Darian Collins. I have been a Merrillville resident for, it'll be 20 years in September. I am here because I'm just so appalled and angry that I can barely speak. Sir, I believe that you're sorry because you were caught. I don't believe you're sorry because of what you did. I can think of all of the tens and thousands of black young men and black young women who never had a chance to say they were sorry because they didn't get a second chance. They were shot dead, they were put in prison, they paid penalties for mistakes, and they were never given a second chance. I don't understand and I don't appreciate why we are able to give you a second chance. I think that you should be removed from your responsibilities, go and rehabilitate, and go away and don't work for this town anymore, because there are others who don't need the extensive training and extensive understanding that you need because they already have it. I had to grow up and understand my way of life as a black woman and way of life of white people. That's the way I was raised because that's the world that I live in. So I didn't have the opportunity to say, I don't know. I had to learn and I had to be sensitive. And if I wasn't, there were a number of people and resources and organizations that pulled my coattail and said, hey, this is this, you do things this way here, you do things this way here, the world is here, this and this. So no, I do not accept your apology. I would like you to step down. You need to relinquish all of your responsibilities to represent us. Merrillville is over 50% black. This is appalling. This is appalling. The other thing I want to say, as far as you being a law enforcement officer, my son was arrested several years ago on a speeding ticket on 73rd and Taft. He was stopped for speeding. He was told to get out of the car. He said he didn't want to get out of the car. He handed his identification through the window. He was in the car with a young man whose father is an Indiana State Trooper. My son was drugged out of the car. He was beaten. He was kicked in the head and arrested. 6 officers jumped on my son because he would not get out of the car because he was stopped for speeding. He was also stopped another time in our development because they said he rolled through a stoplight. He did not roll through a stoplight. They stopped him. They made him get out of the car. They told him, you have 2 choices. You can walk home or we'll arrest you. My son walked home. His car was towed. It was a mess. So Merrillville police have the reputation of not being kind and not being community advocates for young black people in this community. And I feel that it stems from people like you and the pictures and the attitudes that you've had that have come out. Whatever decisions you all make are the decisions that you make. But me, as a 20-year resident and taxpayer of this town, I am appalled. And I think I represent a lot of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening to all the town council, to all the elected representatives, and to all those in the room. My name is Stephen Mays. I'm the president of the Gary branch of the NAACP. The NAACP serves all of South Lake County, all of Lake County with the exception of Hammond and all of Porter County. Now, I originally wanted to visit on 2 complaints, but I'm not going to visit on that because that would take some time. We'll revisit on that later. But I think the leadership here needs to look in the mirror. Governance is tough. Leadership is tough. When you really put the microscope on this leadership group, it's not only Mr. Minchek that's the problem. We lack diversity and inclusion. When you look at this group that runs this town, it's a very narrow circle. When I look at diversity and inclusion, I look at the commissions, I look at the boards, look at the participation, and it's not diverse, it's not inclusive. I've got over 200 phone calls. And out of the 300 plus households that we have members here, all of them are incensed. It was a black eye on Black History Month. I reached out to you, Mr. Minch. I tried to call you. But I understand you got a lot of calls. But a lot of folks are hurting. But moreover, beyond that situation, we need to look truly and be honest at ourselves because we had to make changes. Traditionally, I get complaints in the school district, but I get them in Lowell, I get them in St. John, I get them in Porter, we get them everywhere. But this has been over the top. And now that the microscope is off, people are just bashing me saying that this is like Ferguson. Well, I think this is a great town. And I think we need to roll up our sleeves and do some true work. And I think that training needs to be some real honest training. Because what I understand, the same folks that's been doing the same training, they're not getting it. We're not having honest conversations. If we're going to select police and we're going to have a police commission, it needs to reflect the town. So you don't have these complaints about the police. It needs to be open and true communications. When you protect and serve, that means a lot. And it's a lot of good police officers. People are looking at your record. I don't know your record. But I do know that if the citizens are not participating, it's not a good thing. If you farm that out to just the FOP and the folks of this town don't have no say-so, they're not a part of the boards, it's going to be a problem. People are going to come out and they're going to vote and they're going to attack this group. And this probably is a solid group. But you got to do the right thing because leadership is tough. So sometimes you have to kill the snake at its head, but sometimes the whole entire body needs to take a look in the mirror and say, look, how can we do that? Did we build a facility here and did not have anybody participate in the contracts? Did we have this planning commission and this group over here and we didn't let everybody participate? How do we get everybody involved? There's probably a lot of good folks here because all towns have problems. But the circle needs to be inclusive. And you're right, it does start with you guys. But we need to have some honest conversations. The pancake does have 2 sides. But we need to roll up our sleeves and go to work. This town is too good for that. This town has got great potential. This town has always been an economic hub. This town's got a great history. Let's keep it that way. Let's keep it that way. You all have a lot of work to do because the microscope is on the leadership now. I'm not going to just look at one man. I'm going to look at the total leadership. You guys can do better because there's a lot of people hurting. And that's black and white. That's all of us. All of us have to be accountable. what we've done in the past won't serve us well in the future, because folks are very incensed. Hopefully, we can grow through this. Mr. Minchuk, I'm available for you. No problem.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi, my name is Gene Velasco. I am the judge of the Merrillville Town Court. And when I first found out about this, I reached out to 5 of you. 2 of you don't have email, and explained to you that there was a problem, that I was upset about what had transpired, what the pictures showed, and what they meant to the community and the people that work for my office. I have probably the largest community of minority employees working for the court. And they were upset. They still are upset. But what I'm more upset about is that none of you bothered to talk to me and tell me where you stood with respect to this. I mean, even my own ward representative, Sean Pettit, none of them. Not the president, not anyone here. And I think that I deserve to have that explained to me as to why, that didn't happen. It appears to me, and it will appear to the rest of the community, that you really were afraid to step up and say whatever you thought or whatever you think, whether you agree with Mr. Minchuk or you didn't. I understand that, this happened a long time ago, but it wasn't well received then. It wouldn't have been well received then, or before then, or after then, or even now. All right? And I understand that, Mr. Minchuk has apologized to the community for his involvement in this situation. I feel that that's probably not enough. I think that, we're at one point or another, we're going to do this diversity training. Now, we went on last year. I know that the President Pella brought it up, and I kept waiting to see what would happen, even before this incident. Nothing happened. We have these meetings here regularly every 2 weeks or so, and I see even in here that, we have disrespect for other people that we shouldn't, okay? People, each one of you, we're all elected, and each of you has a right to have your say. That means that if a person is talking, the other people should be quiet and listen to them. You don't have to agree with the person. You have a right to vote. You vote your conscience or what your residents want you to vote. But to ignore people, and I've seen that happen many times, that's unacceptable, all right? So going forward, I hope that we can work together and try to resolve our little issues. But if we can't, we can't, as Mr. Hildebrand pointed out. At one point or another, elections will come around and decisions will be made by the public. I think that before that gets here, we need to face the situation, go forward, and attempt to come up with some sort of acceptable solution. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Is there any public comment? Any other public comment tonight? Seeing none, I'll go to announcements. We have department head meeting March 10th at 10 o'clock at the Dean and Barbara White Community Center. Plan Commission meeting March 16th at 6:30. Redevelopment Commission meeting March 23rd at 6 o'clock. And a Town Council meeting, our next one is March 23rd at 6:30. And then as well as the committee announcements tonight for meetings. A reminder that we do have a meeting immediately following this. It's the Redevelopment Commission meeting. So those of you who are not staying for that, I ask that you please exit quietly so that they can start that meeting and get on their way with that.
Mr. President,
Mr. White,
I think we need to hear from you.
hear from me?
Yes, sir.
I
mean-
posted early on, I did post something, and I think Mr. Hillebrand and Judge Velasco saw my post on my Facebook page, on my website. I have addressed this issue early on. I don't condone this issue. I don't condone what Mr. Minchuk did, no matter when it was or who does it, at any time. I've been very public about that. I shared that with Mr. Minchuk. That's my stance on it. I've accepted his resignation as vice president tonight, and I think the council needs some time to evaluate that and to move forward.
Thank you. Motion to censure.
Motion to adjourn.
Can't have them at the same time.
We have a motion to censure Mr. Minchuk. Is that what you're doing, Leonard? Is that,
That's what I said.
okay. Is there a second?
What?
So Kelly's voting over there with Don, I get, huh? Is that-
Kelly didn't vote.
We have a motion to second to censure. Would you have any more details on that?
Basically, I'm saying we have to censor because I just think that, as we move forward, we have to show something among ourselves of how we feel. And this is the only way I know how to express it, because I haven't asked for him to be removed from the vice presidency. I haven't asked for him to be removed from any committees, because I've already had been removed from committees. So what I'm asking is that we have to make a statement of censure, showing our displeasure of what happened. We can say it out loud, but it needs to reflect in the record. That's my vote.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call.
Mr. Span?
Mr. Span, please vote or abstain.
Are you voting abstain or are you voting to censor? Mr. Hardaway?
What are we voting on?
Mr. White?
Made a motion to
Made a
censor?
motion to censor. Mr. Minchuk?
I abstain.
Mrs. Uzelak?
I didn't hear you, Mr. Hardaway. What'd you say?
abstained.
Huh?
What did you vote?
I abstain.
Oh, you abstained. And we are voting to what? To censor?
To censor Mr. Minchuk. That's basically a public,
Rebuke,
public reprimand. For the record.
reprimand.
Oh, I abstain.
Mr. Pettit?
Abstain.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Bella?
I'm going to abstain, and I need to explain why. Like I mentioned earlier, the council needs time to digest this. I know you all think it's been so long since we haven't done anything on this, but he just resigned as vice president, and I think we need to talk about this intelligently. To strip Mr. Minchuk of committees, censure him, what does that really do? What's more important is that Mr. Minchuk has recognized what he did almost 20 years ago. He was not on the Merrillville Council then, and he wants to get help. I think this council, what we need to be doing is to make sure that Mr. Minchuk gets that assistance and help. The study circles were planned well before this ever happened. Okay, COVID hit and we had to put it on hold. But those study circles and our diversity training, inclusion, and equity has been in the works for a long time. So we are serious about the training. We're going to move forward with the training. Mr. Minchuk's going to move forward with personal training and do some other things on his own. I don't think you shared that, Jeff, but he's promised to do that. And so we have to let him, take a chance to do that. So I abstain. What's the vote total?
2 in favor, 4 abstentions.
Okay. I'll entertain that motion for adjournment now, Mrs. Uselak.
Thank you.
There's a second?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
RDC members, I'd like to call the meeting of the Merrillville Redevelopment Commission to order. Mr. Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Hardaway?
Yes, here.
I am here. White?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Tony. How are you?
Here.
5 members. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, accounts payable register voucher approval for March 9th and approval of the meeting minutes from February 23rd. What's your pleasure?
Motion approved.
Motion by Mrs. Uzelak,
Second.
second by Mr. Hardaway. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Guys, please exit the room. If you could talk in the lobby if you'd like. Folks, Ken, clear the room, please, for us if they want to exit.
Is there any old business, Patrick?
We have other business tonight. I appreciate your cooperation, please.
Under new business, we have the Dean and Barbara White Community Center change orders. Did Steve present those?
We do not have them. They are not ready. They will be completed and presented at the next meeting.
All right.
Motion to table.
Motion to table by Commissioner Uzelak. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hardaway to defer the change orders until the 23rd's meeting at 6 o'clock. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The Project Eagle Economic Development Agreement will fall under the resolution later. Is that correct, Pat?
Yes, sir.
All right. A letter from the Town Engineering Administrator endorsing Corps Construction recommendation for approval of payment for application number 17 to various vendors for work completed at the Merrillville Community Center. This is similar to what we saw at the Town Council meeting, ladies and gentlemen.
Looking for a motion to approve?
I need a motion to approve, yes.
Motion.
Motion to approve.
We'll go with, we'll recognize Leonard as the motion and Marge as the second.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2 items that Pat has lined up for us is Vale Appraisal Group market rental study proposed for the Epic Boys and Girls Club project for $1,350. This is the as-built appraisal that is needed as a part of the package that Mr. Pittman outlined previously.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. White, seconded by Mrs. Uzelak to approve Vale Appraisal Group in the amount of $1,350. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is Martinez, Charmate and Associates Market Rental Study Proposal Fee Epic United Boys and Girls Club project for $1,500. Again, the second appraisal that needs to be done.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Uzelak, seconded by Mr. Hardaway. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. General orders, we have 2 resolutions. The first one is a resolution of the Merrillville Redevelopment Commission approving a form of economic development agreement and related matters thereto. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we heard about this at the council meeting. This is the resolution that will authorize myself as president to execute the economic development agreement for Fortified Packaging LLC and Dottie Properties LLC, having purchased the field house from the town this morning.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Uzelak, seconded by Mr. White to approve Resolution 21-13. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, do we need a roll call, Mr.?
It's a voice vote.
Roll call, please.
Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Hardaway.
Yep.
I'm a yes. Mr. White.
Yes.
Ms. Uzelak.
Yes.
Mr. Pettit.
Motion, yes, motion carries 5-0. The next resolution is the resolution of the Town of Merrillville Redevelopment Commission authorizing certain actions relating to the acquisition of concurrent disposition of a leasehold interest in certain property in or serving the Merrillville Consolidated Economic Development Area and related matters thereto. And guys, since you stuck with us this whole night, I got to turn to Tom and Bob if you guys want to say anything about this resolution.
No, it's good.
You stuck it out.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
resolution.
This is
Second.
the third resolution, or the 4th resolution, right, Tom? This is the last resolution. It's a good one, yes.
Motion to approve.
And
Second.
21-13.
second by Mr. White, motion by Mrs. Uzelak. Mr. Secretary, roll call on Resolution 21-16.
Mr. Hardaway.
Yep.
I am a yes. Mr. White.
Yes.
Ms. Uzelak.
Yes.
Mr. Pettit.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Is there anything else, Mr. Reardon? All right, Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.